Hello and welcome to Scott's Odyssey. I have released this video early in order to get in one last video for Halloween. Why? Well, you may not know this yet, but I'm a bit of an odd fellow, and not just to see in these videos. Halloween just happens to be my favorite holiday of the year, and autumn is my favorite season. It fills the air with new smells and an electricity of something big coming. The weather is absolutely perfect. The right amount of sunlight and cloudiness, slight breezes, a quiet stillness, misty dampness, with a desiccating dryness of all the plants and leaves around us, and a perfect contrast of both warm days and chilly nights. Not to mention the trees finally showing us what color their leaves are. Halloween is a culmination of all these autumnal nuances rolled into a single day where community does its last great get-together before we bundle up and close up our homes to the onslaught of winter. And what do we do with this last community day? We celebrate the dead, the decaying, the macabre, and the hope that we will all see each other on the other side of the big freeze. So I figured I'd make a video talking about an odd celebration that exists in one facet or another for almost every culture on this planet. See you in a minute. Welcome back. If you've watched my videos before, thank you for your patronage. And if you're new to Scott's Odyssey, welcome aboard. I hope you enjoy this video on the history of All Hallows Eve. I would like to politely request that you stop finding my channel by accident. By clicking like and subscribe, you will see these videos when they are released, and it will keep you safe from the specter who is breathing on your neck right now. The United States of America is still the world's melting pot of all humanity. We are a country filled with infinite diversity in infinite combination. Thank you, Spock. One of the things that binds us together are shared experiences that occur within those diversities. Halloween, whether you call it Dia de los Muertos, Kawasaki Day of Dracula, Pangangaluluwa, Hungry Ghost Festival, Pitru Paksha, Zai Zadushne, Aru Odo Chambun, Agnasanti, or Samhain, which is our US Halloween origination, it remains the same. In keeping with foreign language of origin, we would say memento mori, which loosely translated means, remember, you too will die. Memento mori actually means you will also die, and the more correct Latin phrase, if I remember my years of translating the selected works of Cicero, Virgil's Aeneid, as well as the Odes of Horace, you would actually say something more along the lines of memento mortuorum, which would mean remember the dead. But in actuality, you would only be remembering the dead in order to remember that you too will be just like them and seek to be remembered by those who, compared to you, are not dead. Samhain, often mispronounced Samhain, is an Irish word meaning first day of winter. Some may claim religious value to Samhain in the neo-paganistic circles, but in all reality, it was not a religious holiday until the mid-19th century, and only recently has it become more popular in those circles. Historically, Celtic tribes celebrated this day back to a BC time, and it was not recorded until about the 10th century AD, ultimately falling away with the majority of the Celts in the earlier part of the 1800s during the British conquest of Ireland. Part of the celebration of Samhain was to bring the community together and raise spirits, not ghosts, but people's emotional feelings right before winter set in fully. It was the end of a long and hard harvest and the last days of temperate weather, and unfortunately an association with death, because if you were old or sickly, you were most likely dead or dying around that time period. Not too dissimilar to modern days, where this is the time of the year when those with a weaker immune system get caught up in heavy colds, bacterial pneumonia, and even influenza outbreaks. Because of the fact that the sun was in the sky for fewer hours, and the amount of death all around them, not just people, but the crops and just about anything that was formerly alive, the Celts associated this time as a weakening between the world of the living and the world of the dead, and believed that some of the dead returned to Earth. In the earlier times, it was believed these returned dead were the cause of other people dying and the crops failing. Eventually, it was taught by the Druids and priestesses that the dead came back to finish business they did not complete when they were alive. This also led to the ability of the Druids and priestesses to learn from the dead things that may come in the future. Now, these future predictions or prophecies were never bad. They were always something good and reassuring about the days to come. It was how the leaders of the time brought comfort to their tribes, whom were all getting ready for a dark, cold, long winter. So it would all start with the extinguishing of the hearth in your home, and then they would celebrate with sacred bonfires, animal sacrifices. Yes, they ate the animals that they sacrificed. Crop sacrifices, costumes, joke predictions about each other's futures, music, drink, remembrance of the lost, and a lot of crack. No, not the rock, crack, as in good times with other people, for feck's sake. When they would leave the celebration, they would go home and relight their hearth with a flame from the sacred bonfire and kick up the heating of the home with a large log. And if you follow old traditions, this log was called the Yule. But we'll get into that in another video eventually. By the year 43, Samhain was combined with the Roman ritual of Feralia Day, which was essentially a 9-day Roman celebration of the dead, memorializing the fall of the Manes, a group of deceased loved ones whom were believed to become types of deities, but that's another rabbit hole for another time. As well as the incorporation of the Roman Feralia was the addition of Pomona, a celebration of the goddess of fruit and trees, mainly the apple tree, hence the origin of bobbing for apples. As the Roman Catholic Empire spread into these areas and sought induction of pagans to Christianity, there was often some social indoctrination and programming in order to garner this conversion to the faith. One of the more popular angles was to pose Catholicism as similar to their existing pagan religion, which is a process that goes all the way back to the apostles when they converted the Greeks. In 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV dedicated a feast day to all Christian martyrs called All Martyrs' Day. Pope Gregory III found that he needed to make this day inclusive of all the saints and moved it from May 13th to November the 1st, redesignating the feast day All Saints' Day. Over time, All Saints' Day began to pick up a lot of the traditions from Samhain and found itself mirroring that formerly Celtic holiday. Due to the Celtic people whom held onto their old ways, the church decided in 800 AD to maintain a distinct religious difference in the celebrations and created All Souls' Day on November 2nd. This became the official new Samhain celebratory day, and it didn't stick. Now, we say All Saints' Day, but in Middle English it was All Hallowmas, which meant All Holy Saints. Because of this Middle English word, the Eve before was called All Hallows Eve. Eventually this morphed into a singular word again and is what we now call Halloween. Halloween did not catch on quickly in most parts of the New World, especially not in Protestant New England. It was found being practiced in places like Maryland and especially Pennsylvania, where religious freedom was a part of the colony's core practice. Like the Europeans, Native Americans had their own practices of end-of-harvest celebration, and in short time it merged with Halloween, creating a very different Halloween in the United States than what was seen on the other side of the pond. Although these celebrations still include stories of the dead, fortune-telling, song, dance, and food, aspects of scary stories like the Irish story regarding the lantern of Stingy Jack, which was typically carved into a turnip, became the carving and illumination of squash. If you've ever seen the carving of a turnip, you might agree it was much more frightening than what we do with the pumpkin today. Anyway, by the mid-1800s, all of the United States celebrated some form of a fall festival. But that festival was not necessarily Halloween. As a matter of fact, many people still do not celebrate Halloween. And normally it's used as an excuse to push purist religious beliefs, which is just ignorance to the reality of what the celebration is and what it marks. But to each their own. The second coming of the Irish. In the later part of the 1800s, and due in part to the potato famine in Ireland, there was a flood of Irish immigrants to the United States. With them came their existing Halloween traditions. Although not as big a celebration as what was already in America, it was most definitely fuel to a full-fledged holiday within a very short time. Along with the archaic celebration and the New World's version, people started getting together in order to mold a holiday that everyone could celebrate that enforced the concept of community. It first started with an attempt to squash the ghosts and ghouls and replace it with non-paganistic celebration and more wholesome, somewhat secular celebrations. Unfortunately, the rambunctious tweens of the 20s and the 30s remembered the old ways taught to them while they were growing up. And while the community adults were having their parties, the children, whom were to be seen and not heard, would go off and commit acts of vandalism. Because of this blight on communities and a horrific fire that killed several people, town leaders across the U.S. decided to create something for the kids to do while the adults had their parties. Insert the ancient practice of alms in a new form called trick or treat. By 1950, the celebration of Halloween was for all family members, where the children practice trick-or-treating and the parents can celebrate at parties with the community or participate with the children. Ultimately, the celebration has come full circle and brought most communities together with parades, candy, fun, games, and scary stories of those whom have passed. I am someone who was born into a culture and society that practices Halloween. I am also someone who celebrates Halloween more than any other holiday during our calendar year. It's kind of my day. Here's my contribution to my community and some pictures of a practice that are reminiscent of who we once were. I hope you enjoyed learning about Halloween and see how it pulls the community together in good times and happiness. So I know it's dark, but I'm walking up on my porch right now after making the video. My daughter has been helping me because of health issues that I've been having, and she's doing part of our decorating. So let's ask her how things are going. Hello, daughter.
Hi, Dad.
How are things going with progress?
Around and around in circles.
I see. Time is fleeting. Are we having any difficulties?
Well, at one point I was taking a break and I was sitting there and the arm fell off the skeleton and it
I
really
see.
scared me.
I see. So, you were frightened.
Yeah.
It looks as if things are coming along quite well. I see.
Back at it again.
Let's see what it normally looks like when everything's done. I'll see if I can get some post-video when everything is done for this year, but I'll show you some stuff from a couple of years ago.
we call home. Everyone hail to the pumpkin song. In this town, don't we love it now? Everybody's waiting for the next surprise. Skeleton Jack might catch you in the back and scream like a banshee, make you jump out of your skin. This is Halloween, everybody scream. Please make way for a very special time. Our man Jack is king of the pumpkin patch. Everyone hail to the pumpkin king now. This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween. That's our job, but we're not mean. In our town of Halloween. In this town we call home. Everyone hail to the pumpkin song.
Remember, click like on this video and click the subscribe for more ODDySEEy stories of who we once were. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.